Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Fanatics MMA podcast. I am James Lynch. He is JHK. If you've never watched the show before, basically we preview an upcoming notable fight. And on today's edition, we're going to be looking at the change-up in the lightweight fight at UFC 267. It is now Dan Hooker stepping in for Rafael dos Anjos against Islam Makhachev. That intro could have been better. And we're going to be breaking it down. If you guys remember on here before, we had the breakdown of Rafael dos Anjos and Makhachev. Now we're going to do the updated version with Dan Hooker. This is a big fight. We wanted to make sure we covered it. But before we get into that, quick couple housekeeping notes. If you have any questions, just post them in the chat. We'll get to them as soon as we're done the breakdown. Make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. The most important thing that you could possibly take away from today's show, download the Fantasy Fanatics MMA app. We're going to be going through the app later today. We're going to be going through our picks. I did get my picks in ahead of time. And also stay tuned later in the show. JHK and I will be giving our underdog picks for UFC Vegas 40 or Bellator. I mean, there's a lot going on this weekend, so we'll get into it as well. Let's dig into this fight here. So it is Dan Hooker stepping up on short notice. Let me share the screen here so you guys can see what we're all looking at. So there you go. It is Dan Hooker stepping in. We do have the graphic here as well. We see the tail of the tape. So we'll start, we'll start how we normally start with the show is how did we get here? We got here because Rafael dos Anjos and Islam Makhachev is cursed. It is. They've tried it, 3 times? It hasn't happened. This is the 2021 version of Khamzat Chimaev and Leon Edwards, it seems. So we are going with this fight like the replacement fight. Props to Dan Hooker. I like the fact that he just was like, you know what, let's do this. I know he knows deep down, I'm sure it's not a favorable matchup for him, but you know what? He's coming off a nice win in his last fight over Nakrat Hasprak. Why not come in here and try and cause some noise? And I will point out something because, we're going to get a lot of Islam fans, I'm sure, coming on this chat and just in general leading up to the fight. This is the best opponent that Islam Makhachev has fought. And a lot of people want to write Dan Hooker off because of some of those losses. That's not the case. He's fought good guys. That's the fighters he's lost to are very, very, very talented. So Dan Hooker is a very worthy opponent. And more importantly, he's a ranked opponent. That's the big thing here, right? The whole knock on Makhachev is that, he hasn't fought anyone that's, I think Moises was ranked, but, lower in the division. This is a good test for him. It's a good test for Hooker as well, because if he gets the win here, he's back in the title picture, in the contender spot, so to speak. And that's always been sort of his issue, is that when he gets that step up, he tends to lose. So really good fight here as well. And for Islam, he didn't have a choice. I mean, you either fight or you don't. So he's got Dan Hooker. But JHK, just your thoughts on how we got here with this fight. I'll be honest, I was surprised Hooker took it, but at the same time, Hooker's awesome. So, that's why I did take it.
I'm looking at the rankings right now, and it says Islam is number 5 and Dan Hooker is number 6. I always thought Dan Hooker was ranked higher than Islam.
Mm-hmm.
And did they do the switcheroo on
everybody? They did the switcheroo after the Moises fight, I think.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. So the Nasrat fight had no bearing on the rankings.
Didn't matter because Nasrat wasn't ranked, right? I think that was the issue.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's good. But I heard he moved up. Dan was I think he was maybe 8, 7 or something. So even with that win, he moves up. Anyways, going back to Dan, man. Dan, he's been doing this, I think, the last 3 fights. He's been taking these weird situations and turning them into these incredible, I don't know, so the performances that he's had, right? Like the Nasrat fight, he did great. The Dustin Poirier fight, it was one of the best fights of the year, right? And the Chandler fight, he took that on short notice and, just got knocked out. You get caught at the highest level. And remember in that fight, he had to stay afterwards a month or 2 in Abu Dhabi before he could go back home. So it's not like he's never been through this before. And I heard that the UFC is flying his family, his wife and his daughter, to Las Vegas so they can be with him. So that's a good gesture by the UFC. I'm pretty sure that's in the contract somewhere that Dan probably signed, right? Where he's probably a 6-figure. Is it 6? Yeah, probably a 6-figure check. I don't know. I'm thinking that he's getting 6 figures for this fight. I think they're rewarding him nicely for stepping up. And Dan knows his situation. In this division, in the UFC, you could lose, you could win, you could lose, and then you could win your next one, and you could be fighting for the title. And he knows that the UFC is propping up Islam, and he wants to knock that trophy off the wall. And that's why he's taking this fight, because he knows if he beats Islam, he can get on the mic and he could probably talk himself into a title eliminator or even a title shot. And I think that's why Dan took this fight. And, and Dan, he's not I don't want to use the word scared, but he's not scared, man. He's not scared.
Well, that
People
was
are
just dumb
always
anyways.
saying,
People are
right?
saying that. Yeah. And those same people are the people, that saying that Dan Hooker sucks and all this. It's like, you got to look at who he's fighting. Like, you can't just say that. If he's losing to, an unranked guy and he's getting finished, fair enough. You guys have the right to say that, if someone's not performing well. But I mean, he lost to Michael Chandler, who fought for the title. Like, come on, people. Let's get real here. So,
Yeah. And he lost to Poirier, who's going to fight for the title. And a lot of people
exactly.
believe he's
Yeah.
the best lightweight on planet Earth.
Yeah.
With Islam, man, it's his biggest opportunity right now, right?
Yeah.
His fight with Hooker, because they've been jawing back and forth. I think Islam showed him a little bit of respect for taking the fight on short notice, but I think that's all the respect we're going to see between these two guys. I feel like once they get on that island, they're going to be going back and forth, and we're going to see an incredible fight.
Let's get into both fighters. We'll start first with Islam Makhachev. We kind of went over a lot of this with the Rafael dos Anjos fight, so we'll kind of keep it, as good as we can get. But let's first look at the tail of the tape. Let's see if I can bring this up here. Where are we? Is that it? No. That's not it. That's it, but I'm not on the screen. Well, I guess I'll talk. I'm the one talking here. Tail of the tape here. You can see Islam Makhachev, 30 years old, Dan Hooker, 31. So, I mean, you actually forget that they're pretty much the same age here. Dan Hooker has more fights at 31. I like these stats, by the way. You don't get these on a typical thing here, which is why you got to check out the All-Star. Great website when it comes to stats and all that. So you look at it there, 21 wins for Dan Hooker, 20 wins for Islam Makhachev, 1 loss, 10 losses for Hooker. But again, level of competition playing into that. You've got 10 knockouts for Dan Hooker, just 3 for Islam Makhachev. That's a key thing in this fight, and we'll get into that a little bit later. 9 wins by submission for Islam Makhachev, 7 for Dan Hooker. 81% finish rate for Dan Hooker. That's a really good finish rate. And for Makhachev, as talented as he is, it's only recently he's been finishing a lot of his opponents. A lot of times they've gone the distance. So I think he's evolving in his game as well, but that is something to sort of keep in mind when looking at this fight. And here's the other key thing, JHK, the height and reach. 6 feet tall to 5'10", 70.5 inch reach to 75.5 inch reach. That's a nice advantage there for Dan Hooker in this fight as well. So those are some things to kind of keep in mind in this fight. Like, age-wise, they're the same. Yes, Islam is a huge favorite, and we have the odds down here. I know they're up here. You look at a lot of the books here. Well, right now, you even look at it here. Islam Makhachev opening at a -405 betting favorite. And then Dan Hooker's a +385 underdog. Like, I get it. Islam is definitely the real deal. But we'll explain why as we sort of dig through here, why this might be a closer fight than people sort of think here. But Islam, of course, coming off that win over Thiago Moises in his last fight, a very dominant performance. He beat Drew Dober before that. Islam's been on a nice streak here. And the nice thing about him right now, John, is that he is actually being very active, which is good. That's sort of the knock on him and on Khabib, is that they weren't as active as we'd like. So now, people are saying, oh, how come this guy hasn't fought for a title? Well, you got to fight. You got to keep active. So the fact that they were able to find a replacement, good on the UFC. And good on Dan Hooker, who obviously just fought. He's taking, there's a lot. Well, when I talk about Hooker, I'll kind of talk into some of the implications of this fight, but it's just good to see Islam get this fight. So, JHK, just your thoughts on Islam, and what he can bring to the table in this fight.
Man, he brings a lot to the table. He is what they call the second coming of Khabib, but I'm not believing that. I think Khabib's Khabib and Islam is Islam. They're different fighters. They might have a similar style. And James was mentioning about him finishing fights, but you know what? He's been finishing fights lately. And I think that's most important for Islam, is that it's not like he was finishing fights early in his UFC career and then you just started racking up decisions after decisions after decisions. He's actually fighting. He's actually finished his last 2 opponents, right? And these are top 15 guys, or, near top 15 guys in Drew Dober and Thiago Moises. With Islam, I like what I see, in his development. Like, it seems like the fight, I believe the fight with Gleison Tibau, I feel like that fight was the fight where, like, we saw him, like, get his confidence with that knockout. I felt like he was surprised that he got that finish over Gleison so easily. And I think after that's where we saw the Islam that we see. Because after that, he beat Cajun Johnson with decent win. But the big win is that one against Arman, right? Arman, he's a guy just like Islam, coming up a little bit behind him, but still a lot of talent there. And he beat him in a unanimous decision fight of the night. And after that, we know what happened. Islam, so much talent, but I didn't realize how old he was. I thought he was much younger.
Yeah. He's not. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Again, Islam, they're saying he's the future. This is a good opportunity for him to sort of prove that over his first, in my opinion, really notable opponent here. I mean, Dober's notable. Thiago Moises, not so much. Thiago Moises ranked. And again, it's not his fault. I know there's guys that, have turned him down that don't want to fight him. So props to Dan Hooker even more for that. Let's get into Dan Hooker here. As you can see, 31 years old. Lost 2 of his last 3 fights, but the context is so important. And I always bring this up because I was just having this talk with someone the other day about Dominic Reyes and how people are like, oh, Reyes, he's not what he's as advertised, but he's also losing to the best guys in the division. Mm-hmm. Similar situation here with Hooker in those 2 losses. He's losing to Poirier in a fight that was pretty close. And then the Chandler fight, he got caught, but I mean, 9 times out of 10 they fight. I think that you get a bunch of different results with that as well. The key thing here with Hooker is that he just fought against Nasrat Haqparast. That was last month on the Volkanovski and Ortega card. Oh no, that was this month. Or no, this month, last. I can't remember. I'm getting my dates mixed up, but kind of get what I'm saying. Oh no, it was the end of last month. That was when that fight took place. So he's getting a nice turnaround here. He's already in Vegas. He couldn't have gone back anyways to New Zealand. So for him, it's like, you know what? He doesn't have to travel, which is actually, I guess, technically for this card, because it is in, it's going to be in Abu Dhabi. This is going to be a fight where he is going to have to travel a little bit, but still the fact that he's already in Vegas, he doesn't have to go and worry about, police coming and banging down his door like he was in New Zealand, right? With the camp he had over there, and he's going to have his coaches. So I think that's a nice benefit as well. You look at the 81% finishing rate. This guy can knock you out. I think, he's one of those guys in that division that on any given night, he can get the finish. Now, what's the one loss that Islam Makhachev had in his career? It was against Adriano Martins, and it was a knockout. So we know that Islam can be knocked out. No fighter's invincible. And I know the odds, like I said, favor Islam in this fight, but that is something. And we see West Coast in the chat. I know we'll get to the questions a little bit later, but he's pointing out, I don't see how Hooker wins unless he catches him. That's true, but he can still catch him. The other key thing about this is the fact that, Hooker, I always talk about this when it comes to fights that are sort of like short notice fights like this. Hooker doesn't have a lot to lose here. He's doing the UFC a favor. He stepped up to the plate, took this fight. He's already stuck in Vegas anyway. So it's like, whatever, it's not like he's flying over from somewhere to have to, make a proper camp for himself or anything like that. That's already embedded here in Vegas. We saw the photo of him this morning at the PI. He's got everything in his back pocket. And let's say he does lose this fight, big deal. He lost to Islam, who everyone's saying is supposed to be this, future champ. He'll live to see another day. But if Islam loses this fight, that's a big setback for him in the sense that, he was on this nice winning streak. He sort of shook off. People don't even remember that he lost to Adriano Martins, right? But if he loses this, that's going to be in the forefront of everyone's minds. And to me, this is a big opportunity. If Hooker wins this fight, he's not going to get a title shot. If Islam wins this fight, there is a possibility of, sneaking into the title picture here just with his record and his resume. So to me, there's more on the line here for Islam than Hooker. And I think that's very dangerous for a guy in Dan Hooker who, like I said, has knockout power. It's not like Hooker's a submission guy or a wrestling guy. Hooker has that ability to finish you, and all it takes is one shot. So it's going to be very interesting here as well. Now, saying that, I will say that I don't think Hooker's fought anyone even close to Islam Makhachev in his career in terms of the grappling pedigree and the style of wrestling. I know Chandler's a good wrestler, but still, it's a much more different matchup here as well. So again, Dan Hooker is a guy you cannot count out. He's got a heart of gold, and he's a guy as well that that fight against Edson Barbosa, he hung in there and he was getting absolutely battered. That's one thing that we know about Dan Hooker. He's been battle tested. Islam hasn't really been like that. So if the going gets tough, how is he going to be, later in the fight? Now, this is only a 3-round fight, so that I think does favor Islam in the sense that, he can get, a quick start and kind of go through it. But if it was like a 5-round war and they're, beating the crap out of each other, I would almost give the edge to Hooker because we've seen him have those 5-round wars as well. So Dan Hooker, like I said, big underdog in this fight, but I think he's also someone you can't look past in this fight and just say, oh, it's an easy win for Islam. There's nothing easy about this fight. This is the biggest test of Islam Makhachev's career. So JHK, just your thoughts on Dan Hooker.
When you look at Dan Hooker's resume in the UFC, there are many opponents that he's faced that are just pure wrestlers. They will go in there and implement a wrestling style. You mentioned Michael Chandler. He's actually kind of turned into this hybrid striker in a way, right? Not that much wrestling. He utilizes it, but not as much, right? And then the other wrestler that he faced, Dan Hooker, was Al Quinta, and he boxed his face off for 3 rounds, right? Because Al has become a striker himself. He's becoming a boxer, right? But he comes from a wrestling background where he could utilize it against Dan Hooker. So really, Dan actually has a lot to prove right here, right? Because he's going to face off against a type of fighter that everybody thinks will be able to, solve that CKB puzzle, right? But I feel like Dan is ready. I think he's been training for an opponent like this. It's, Habib has been the champion for so long. I feel like a lot of these guys have been training to fight Habib, right? The guys that are in the top 15. So when they do go face off against Islam, a lot of these guys that have been training for the champ are ready for Islam. Dan, you mentioned it, the height, the reach. And I feel like those long legs, those long arms, those are going to play a big factor in this fight when they start to, get engaged and get in close and get along the fence. Like if you see Israel's fights, whenever the guys try to go take him down, what does he do? He defends well against the fence, right? And Dan, he's also able to do that. He's also built similar to Izzy. And I still see those as like really bright points on Dan's side, facing off against Islam, who is a heavy grappler. But man, Islam, when you look at his grappling, like the way he takes guys down, three ways I saw, right? The one style is like he loves to trip guys, right? He's very quick with the trips, and he takes guys down with the single leg if it's in the open mat, and then along the fence, right? I feel like if Dan can stay away from those single legs in the open mat, I feel he could take it to the cage. He can defend well against the takedowns, and I feel like I've seen that a few times in his past fights where he's defended in the clinch along the fence really well. But Dan, man, it's just the experience I think that he brings to this. They're both great fighters, both very highly skilled, and I think like they could both finish each other with a knockout or a submission. It just depends where the fight goes.
Let's get to the odds here, as we showed earlier. -4. So Makhachev opened as a -4.5 favorite. Most books are still having him as even higher. Like there's some books that have him as -715, which is crazy. A couple books here, a lot of them -500. So the line there is more money coming in on Islam Makhachev, and you compare that to the Dos Anjos fight. He's actually a bigger favorite in this fight against Dan Hooker than he was against Rafael Dos Anjos, which to me is a bit weird. I don't know about you, but I think Dan Hooker would beat Rafael Dos Anjos. I don't know. Maybe I'm up to lunch here. I think Dos Anjos a lot older, taken a lot of damage in his career. So is Hooker, but still, I mean, Hooker's a lot younger as well too. So there are the odds right there. So who are we picking? I will give my pick. I think I'm going to kind of state the obvious here. I'm going with Islam Makhachev. However, I will mention this. I'm also going to throw a little flyer on the Dan Hooker by knockout prop. He has the ability to knock out Islam. I know the odds are going to be crazy. It'll be plus something, whatever. It's going to be something nuts, but Dan has a puncher's chance in this one. And that's something I'm willing to bet on in this fight and see if it potentially happens here. Because like I said, the pressure's not as much on Hooker as it is on Islam, in my opinion. I think if Hooker loses this, he can always say, hey, it was short notice. It's the same reason with, Masvidal taking that title fight against Usman. He always could use in the back pocket. I took it on short notice, and he used that to his advantage. He got a rematch against Usman with a full camp. Similar situation here with Dan Hooker, where, it's short notice. He's taking it. He's going to fight the guy that no one wants to fight. And I think that, plays a big role here. Islam's got to win. There's not only the pressure of, his fan base, I'm sure Habib, wants to, do well for him. There's the fans, there's everything. And, there's a lot of expectations about him being this future champion. Well, you got to go out there and beat a Dan Hooker to prove that. So there's a lot weighing on Islam's shoulders. The style matchup, though, definitely favors Islam. He can go out there and basically out-wrestle Hooker and neutralize a lot of those weapons that he has, including the knees, including the the strikes and everything else. So that is a clear path to victory. So to me, it's either Dan Hooker by knockout or Islam Makhachev by decision. I don't think Islam will finish Dan Hooker because it's only a 3-round fight. I think Dan will be able to survive. He's been hit by some really tough guys like Edson Barbosa. And I think Hooker will end up. I think Islam will end up going the decision. So I'm sure we agree on the pick here, John, or maybe we don't. But I'm curious to hear how you think this fight will unfold.
This fight could either go two ways. Either we're gonna see a crazy finish, or we're gonna see a boring fight. This is what I expect. I expect Islam to go in there and take Dan down, and Dan being able to defend well against submissions, defend well, dodge the punches, dodge the elbows while he's on the ground. But Islam's just gonna ride out the time, and that's how most of the rounds might end up. Dan might win a round, but Islam was gonna win most of the fight because he's gonna drag it to the ground. That's a one possibility, right? But I just want to put my money on Dan for some reason. I think like Dan, he did the same thing when he went into the Chandler fight. He just took that on short notice. I feel like he signed a contract, from what I remember, like 2 weeks before the fight or something like that.
Yeah.
And he flew over there and fought Chandler, right? I feel like he, at that moment, he probably wasn't ready for that. Now he's ready for that. Now he's ready to go back to the same location where he fought Chandler and take this spot, right? And take his title shot. I feel like he's going to go in there and perform. And this short turnaround, I feel it's beneficial for Hooker more than anything. You know, the pressure is on Islam, man. That I don't think people realize how much pressure is on Islam, man. Like, you're supposed to be the next Habib. It's like saying, Lynch, you're supposed to be the next GSP.
Exactly. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
You know, that's a lot of pressure. And plus he's fighting on like pretty much on home ground.
Mhm.
Islam is fighting in Abu Dhabi. That's like home territory for a lot of those fighters, right? They've been out there many times. They know a lot of the people there. Most of the people in the crowd are going to be cheering for Islam. Dan's going to go in there, like you said, not much pressure on him. He's going in there short notice, you know, with that built-in excuse, so to say, right?
Mhm.
That built-in excuse, so to say. And he's just going to go let it fly, man. If it doesn't work out, Dan's a guy that he could lose and he could come back, right? And I see him going in there and just letting it fly, and a knockout's gonna come. I think a knockout's gonna come, or even he's gonna catch him in a submission, because Dan has those long arms. You seen him sub DeCasey when he was coming in for the takedowns, right? And one thing Islam likes to do is grab that single leg, and a lot of guys like to grab his neck. And Dan, if you let Dan grab your neck, you might not get out of that. So I feel that's the outcome that I see. I see Dan either grabbing the neck on the takedown and, you know, pulling guard and trying to go for that guillotine, or I see Dan knocking him out. It could be a knee, it could be an elbow. I don't know, but it's going to be crazy.
Certainly is. And JHK and I will most likely, well, I got to double check with them, but I'm pretty sure we'll be doing a live stream that night on my channel. So if you guys are watching the fights, come join us. We'll be giving our analysis during fight night as well. And I don't know how it is for you, but we have to pay for UFC 267. Do you have to do that in Korea as well?
No.
There you go. Yeah, we're always getting, Canadians are always getting screwed over. Just like
why
last
are you guys
week
paying? I thought you guys had like a subscription type thing.
No, we have to pay for it for some reason. I don't know why they just don't make it free on Fight Pass. I know it was an issue with TSN of them airing the actual card, but we have to pay for it, which kind of sucks. But whatever, it's all good. I've paid for all the other ones. Might as well pay for one more. It's all good.
Is it something that they're going to continue, or is it just for this event?
No, just for this one. Just for this one.
What?
Because it's free in the US, right? They're
yeah.
airing it on like regular ESPN or ESPN Plus. I'm not sure. All right. I know you guys have been waiting patiently for your questions. Just another quick reminder: hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. That's an easy way to support us on the channel. And by the way, I didn't even mention this off the top. We're back on our old time slot. Well, actually, our old time slot, but a day earlier. This is the permanent time. It should be for now. Thanks for being patient with us. I know last week we said, hey, we're going to do this time slot. This should be it for now. We've had some stuff. And also I'm producing the show going forward. Not that Michael isn't. He's doing some stuff behind the scenes, but I'm actually doing the controls in terms of the questions and all that. So just mentioning that as well. That nothing bad or anything. We've just changed up a few things, and it's just easier for everyone if we do it this way. So thank you for being patient, as we say. All right, let's get to and also download the Fantasy Fanatics MMA app. That goes without saying. Start with Antoine. He says, yo, awesome breakdown, guys. You know, he said this even before we started, so just shows you how great Antoine is as a guest here. I'm sure you will break the fight down, but I wanted to know how you feel about Leon being minus 200. I think George is getting respect. Against Nate, he was minus 450. Well, okay, the Nate thing was a little bit different because Nate had the layoff coming into that fight too. So that also played in the fact that Leon was such a big... I know Leon had a bit of a layoff as well prior to the Bilal Muhammad fight, but I think that was part of it. Yeah, I do think that's a bit low. I don't know. I mean, well, that's a fight we're definitely going to break down. I did a video on my channel yesterday. I'm still seeing people saying Masvidal first round KO. I don't know what planet you're living on, because Masvidal's had one knockout in the first round against Askren, and I've already gone into detail about this. It was kind of a bit of good strategy and good luck with that knockout happening. But Masvidal's not a first round finisher, so I don't know what people are thinking about that. But yeah, no, I think... yeah, I guess that's okay. I would almost think if you wanted to go Leon 3-1, I'd be fine with that too. I think Leon has a lot of advantages. Leon, I think people forget too, is 6 years younger than Masvidal as well. And Masvidal he got knocked out in his last fight. Is this a sign of things to come with Jorge Masvidal, with the fact that maybe his durability is not what it used to be? And so in terms of how do I feel that Leon should be the favorite. I will, spoiler alert, I will be picking him in this fight, but we will break this one down. Maybe we'll break it down next week. Actually, we'll have to look into what we want to go into. But your thoughts on Leon being the betting favorite?
Oh yeah, I think he's the betting favorite, no doubt. I feel like these odds are based off of like that last 2 minutes of Leon's last fight
100%,
against
100%,
Nate.
yeah. It's crazy, man. This is the thing that people forget too, and I need to bring this up again because you know me, I'm Team Leon. Like that fight was 5 rounds. It should have been 3, right? Like this is a fight that should be 5 rounds. If we're talking about, I mean, the implications of it or whatever. If that fight's 3 rounds, there is no Nate Diaz punch. Leon wins 30-27. He might have even got a title shot. I don't know. But to me, that's just crazy. Like people don't like, it just shows you how like the fandom has like overtaken sort of the public consciousness because people act like Leon lost his last fight and he didn't. He won decisively. He had one bad moment in the fight. You know what it reminds me of? It's like, you know what, a similar fight where that happened? Edson Barbosa when he fought Kevin Lee. Edson Barbosa actually rocked Kevin Lee and he was on, remember he did the dancing legs, but no one remembers that really. They just remember that Kevin Lee destroyed the fight. It's only different because it was Nate Diaz doing it to Leon and it was in the 5th round. That's the only reason. And so unfortunately for Leon, he's having to take this fight, but I would still favor him there. So
I have a conspiracy on this line though. I feel like they put it at -200. So all the money goes in on Jorge early. So they would move the line. So they're able to move the line.
Good point.
You know, and they manipulate us, the fans. Fans, be careful. Don't bet too soon. I'm just telling you right now.
That's a good point, actually. Masvidal's got a huge fan base. I wouldn't be surprised if it's close to even money by the time the fight comes around. Do you guys think Beneil Dariush could get the winner of this fight? Also, who do you think Gilbert Burns fights since Jorge is fighting Leon? Okay, bunch of things there. First off, could Dariush get the winner of this Islam and Hooker fight? We'll see. Got to state the obvious here. Dariush and Makhachev have the same manager. I don't know if that's something that would prevent the fight from happening. I don't know what you do with Dariush,
I don't
right?
think so.
I was going to say, I don't think that's likely. I don't know what's going to happen because you've got that Gaethje and Chandler fight too. Like if Gaethje, here's the thing. I don't think it matters who wins the title fight with Poirier and Oliveira. That's kind of irrelevant. Because whoever wins, it's still, like a good matchup regardless. If Chandler beats Gaethje, that would benefit, I think, Dariush, because that would be a fresh matchup for Dariush, whoever he fights out of that mix. If Gaethje wins, then Gaethje probably gets it, because I think people also forget Gaethje's a former interim champ. That's got to count for something. And he lost to Khabib, who retired. So it's like, where does he fit? So I would think Gaethje would be ahead of Dariush, but if Chandler wins, I think Dariush should be ahead of him. So if I'm Dariush, I don't think he gets the winner of this fight, but I think he maybe just waits and sees what sort of happens there, because he's coming up a win over Ferguson, and that's what got Oliveira the title shot, right? So
I like what Dariush is doing right now. He's not doing any media. I seen him doing some political stuff, but I don't want to talk about that.
Oh, the Candace Owens thing.
He's not doing any MMA media. He's not talking about fights. He's sitting back and seeing how everything plays out. And I think that's very smart of Dariush. You know what I mean? Because this is not his first run towards the top of the division, right? This is his second run towards the top of the division. Yeah. So I feel like, does he have a third one in him? I don't know. So you got to be very careful and strategic to the moves you make after this, these couple of events. And I think Dariush is going to slide in perfectly somewhere, right? And he's going to fight maybe a title eliminator. You know what I mean? With one of the major names, one of the losers probably of the big fight, right? Maybe the Gaethje, like you said, Gaethje, Chandler, or whatever. On Gilbert Burns, man, it's like he's stuck in a hard spot, right? Like you don't want to fight your buddy Vicente Luque at number 4.
Now he wants to fight Strickland at middleweight. Did you see that? That's kind of. I got to be honest. It's kind of dumb if I'm being honest. Like, I like Gilbert. It's nothing against him. I just think like you don't gain anything. You're not going to stay at middleweight. You were a former lightweight. I understand that, but I don't know. To me, it's like if it wasn't Strickland, if it was someone else, if it was like Brendan Allen who needed an opponent or something, and Gilbert wanted to step up and fight him, that's fine. But Strickland has a nice winning streak heading into this. It's like if Gilbert wins, then that kind of ruins a contender for that division. And if Strickland wins, what the heck does that even mean that he's beat Gilbert Burns, who's a 170er? So I don't know. Like I get, I don't, first off, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the opponent that Strickland should fight, and I mentioned this last night, was Jack Hermanson. That's the slam dunk pick, assuming Hermanson doesn't have any issues with traveling with COVID and all that stuff. That would be my only thing. But Hermanson makes the most sense. He's another guy that's sort of on that fringe of being a contender in the division. People said Calvin Gastelum. I can't see that. I know that Gastelum's Mr. Short Notice. He's lost 5 of 6 though. For Strickland, that doesn't really mean much other than Gastelum's ranked. And 2, didn't Gastelum say he wants to go to 170? So it's like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't think Gastelum's the opponent. To me, it's Jack Hermanson would be the proper opponent.
You're right. Jack Hermanson's ranked right above Strickland, so why not give him the next guy? Yeah, I think that's the fight to make. But I think Herman's is getting ready for some wrestling match with
with
Hamzat in November or some crazy.
Yeah, but this is this is actually something. This is actually his actual job. It's not wrestling people. All right, let's keep going through the questions. One of the benefits of me being at the controls here is we'll zoom through these a lot faster. Nothing against Michael though. Michael's the man. I just want to point that out. Michael helped set up these graphics this morning, so shout out to Michael, my favorite producer of all time. I can honestly say that. I've had a lot of good producers in my time, but he's the best. Okay, really happy for Dan. Oh yeah, sorry. Brett says hello to you as well, Brett. I don't see Hooker winning unless he catches him. We've talked about that already. Really happy for Dan. I am as well. Good opportunity. He's training at the PI. I already talked about that. Islam trolling Justin about his comments on the rankings was pretty funny. But is that him writing that or is that his manager? And you mentioned the thing earlier about Beneil not doing interviews. That also has to do with which management he's part of. I've never seen a management group more than that management group, which I'm not even going to mention them, go out of their way to make sure their fighters don't get interviews. Like, it's crazy to me. Like, your job is to promote your fighters, not to make sure they're not getting promoted. That's crazy to me, but teach their own. RDA has more experience facing wrestlers than Hooker. That he does, but RDA is older and he's taken way more damage, in my opinion. So I would pick RDA over, or I would pick Hooker over RDA if they would have fought. Islam will throw wild to get a hold of you. I hope Dan catches him coming in. Maybe that knee up the middle. That's what I was thinking too. That knee from hell, man. Could be interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see. West Coast agrees with the odds. Again, I agree with the odds too in terms of Hooker and Makhachev. I mean, Makhachev, if he's as advertised, if he can do what he's done to his other opponents, that I don't disagree with that as well. Might have to place a bet on Dan by KO too. We'll let us know if you do. Dan doesn't have one punch KO power. He doesn't, but he's got the knees. He's and again, he's gonna have the reach advantage. It's another key thing in this fight. Can he get on the inside and sort of use his length to his advantage? That's something. It's a 5.5 inch reach advantage in the fight. So yeah, that could mean something, right?
I think so. I think if he plays it right, I mean, it's all about strategy at the end of the day at this level, I mean, and execution. So that reach, that 5 inches, man, that's gonna be insane, and his leg reach too.
Yeah. Islam all day. That would be a terrible look for Islam. The UFC would hate that if he lost. Yeah, I mean, if Hooker wins, he's a notable guy as well. I don't think it's the end of the world. The odds for says RDA has slightly better chance of beating Islam. That's just it. Both are underdogs in the end. They are, but I still think it's interesting. I think Hooker's a tougher fight for Makhachev than RDA was, personally. Am I out to lunch here, people? I don't know. John, what do you think? Am I out to lunch?
Is it the odds RDA is a slight better chance of beating Islam? I don't know about that.
I don't either. Hooker's younger.
Yeah, Hooker's younger, and it seems like he's coming into his prime. And RDA, he's kind of on the last edge of his prime.
Yeah.
So
he fought Felder in his last fight, who was coming off. I mean, he was training for a triathlon, but that's not the same thing. Fighting him, and he barely he eked by that fight. I mean, right? Like Felder had his moments in that fight. You know what I'm saying?
And I think Felder retired after that, right?
He did, yeah. So it's like I don't agree with that. This one's going to be interesting. Of course it is. That's why we're talking about it. Jose Flores, why didn't Gillespie get the Islam fight? I don't know if he wasn't available. We're now hearing Gillespie might be fighting Arman, which is a great fight. But look, from Islam's perspective, what makes more sense for him? Fighting Dan Hooker or fighting Gregor Gillespie? It's absolutely fighting Dan Hooker. More notable name, higher ranked. The Gillespie, it's just Gillespie to me is sort of in that same category of like the Thiago Moises and Drew Dobers, like good fighter, not a huge name. And, a threat. I mean, I don't know who wins that grappling exchange. I don't. I mean, probably Islam, but Gregor's really good at you saw what Gregor did to Yancy Medeiros and some of the other guys that he's fought. I mean, that guy's just a machine. So that would have been, hopefully we do see that fight down the line. It would be really good there as well. They just raised the price of ESPN Plus 2. I did see a question. This sort of ties into what I saw Joey mention later in the chat as well. He says, James, you never stop working. That's true. By the way, you should get your VPN and say you're in the US to get UFC 267 for free. It's free on the ESPN Plus app for the US. Here's the problem though. I'd have to sign up for ESPN Plus, which I can't because I think they need a US address and I don't have one. So yeah, that's why I can't watch it for free. But again, whatever, I'll just write it off on my taxes at the end of the year. Question for John. Big Squid Game. How big is Squid Game becoming Korea? Everyone's talking about this. I still haven't watched it yet. Squid Game.
Squid Game is just like any other drama or TV series that has come out in Korea. I feel like it seems like every other Korean series gets blown up and people are loving it, right? So Squid Game is nothing different. I don't see Squid Game like outside everywhere or anything like that. So it's big, but it's I think the world loves it more than Korea does.
Interesting. Still got to watch it. It's on my list. I've been telling people this. John, you'd like this show. Dark Side of the 90s. You know, there's that Dark Side of the Ring wrestling show on Vice where they kind of look back in the 90s and they look at like, you know, old things that happened in wrestling, which is outstanding. So the same people who did that show, which by the way, they're Canadian, shout out to them, are now have done a series called Dark Side of the 90s. I was talking about this on my show yesterday, so I apologize to those who are hearing me repeat this, but it's such a good documentary series. It's like every episode they go through something that's happened in the 90s. So the one I watched last night was about those cults. Remember the Branch Davidians, the Waco, Texas thing? Do you remember that in the 90s? And then there was the Heaven's Gate where they all committed suicide.
San Diego, right?
No, the one was in Waco, Texas, and then the other one
They're wearing
the
Nike.
Yeah, the Nike shoes. Yeah. I think it was Florida, or I could be wrong about that. But
okay.
Either way, yeah. And then they did one on the grunge era. Then they did one on the one I'm watching now is on like the internet coming in the 90s and Netscape, and you remember old Netscape browser? You're my age, you remember that. So yeah, it's just a really cool documentary series, and I hope they continue doing it because it's just there's stuff I just watch in this and it's like, oh yeah, like I remember that as a kid. It was crazy. So
is it on like HBO or something?
It's on Vice. But I can I'll DM you. There's a few ways you can watch it because I don't have Vice either. Just leave it at that. I don't want the people from Vice to knock down my door, but I'll let you know. But there's a couple ways you can watch it. All right. Does George get automatically a significant? Okay, does George get a +4 automatically in significant strikes because of the 3-piece and a soda? Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah.
James, people still only see that 15 seconds out of a 5-round fight. It's crazy. Just goes to show you how popular Nate Diaz is. Again, Leon fights, Jeff Neal, and that happens. No one cares. I don't think it's because it was Nate Diaz. This is the whole thing there as well. Leon did not show anything that he has a chance to beat Marty Usman. Look, I think styles make fights. It's really tough to say, because he didn't show this in one fight, he's not going to do it in the other one. Trying to think of an example of that, like recently that we've had where maybe someone hasn't done quite. Okay, here's one. Dominic Reyes, when he fought Volkan Ozdemir, right? A lot of people felt like Volkan won that fight, and then he fights Jones and nearly beats him. So it just goes to show that like you can't really look at every fight, and I mean styles make fights, right? So you kind of have to look at it that way. Kevin Lee, after doing the chicken dance in the 4th, was still able to take Barbosa down and dominate the rest of the fight while Leon got rocked in the last minute of the fight. But Leon still dominated the rest of the fight. Like, you can't ignore that. Like, that's like, that's like in football, a team winning like 47, they're up 47-0. And then, there's a Hail Mary touchdown at the end of the game by the other team. That's still the result, is the one team, or in this case, Leon Edwards being up and everything else. So you can't just fixate on that one thing. That's what I'm trying to say.
I hate this narrative of like, it's street fight rules. It's not street fight rules. We're regulating MMA sport. Rules.
I know, exactly.
Yeah, what the hell are you talking about, right? It's like, okay, if we're talking about, it's like, I don't know Kevin Holland, but he said that he lost that fight. And because if it was street fight rules, you don't lose the fight, you die.
Yeah.
Right. So let's stop this street fight rules thing. Like, it's ridiculous.
What is up, my man Tavon Anthony? So this man here has been doing some great content on YouTube as of late. This is the Mr. He does the Who You Got rap predictions as well. He's also the guy that does the theme song for my YouTube channel. If you guys know that song that plays at the end of my videos, Tavon right here. Good to hear from you, buddy. Great, super talented guy. So check him out on Twitter at his name here, AEOXIS. Great follow. Always on Twitter, always talking stuff. And if you guys need any music done, highly recommend him. I have people on my videos being like, where did you get that Tupac song? Like, this is how good he sounds. He's so freaking awesome, talented. So shout out to you, man. It's always great hearing from you, and one of the good guys in our community as well. Benil should fight Vicente. Benil is a lightweight. Vicente is a welterweight. Doesn't make sense there. West Coast loves Candace Owens. We're not going to be a political show here, although I will say one quick political thing. Ben Shapiro, who's like a super far right-wing guy, did a debate recently with Anna Kasparian, who's from like the Young Turks. She's super far left. They did a debate. I watched a little bit of it. We need more of that. We need more people coming together and talking about stuff and it not getting, super nasty here. So I just wanted to give props to both of them because I thought that was pretty interesting. So that's the only political thing I'm going to say on here because I don't want to get canceled. Let's see. Days ago, Dariush told Jimmy Smith that he wants to fight in December against anybody. Well, why would you fight in a different weight class? Like, I get that he wants to keep active, but like, dude, you have a good standing at lightweight. Like, just wait to see how things unfold or see if there's a potential opponent there. Like, even if he was to fight someone ranked a little bit lower, I don't think that's the end of the world, but don't fight up a weight class. It just doesn't make any sense,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's weird, man. I think if you're in the rankings, you probably shouldn't do that at all. Yeah. And disrupt another ranked fighter in the weight class above. Champion versus champion, I can understand that, but guys climbing up the ranks, I think it's just you shouldn't do it. But it's fun, you know. I like it. I like when guys are like, "Hey, put me in there against this guy." You know, he's a killer, so it shows you balls, but it's just doesn't make sense for like your career.
Here's an interesting one. If Hamzat gets the win over Lee in Hamzat fashion, I can see him getting a top 5 guy like Wonderboy. Thoughts? Completely agree. And you know what? It's funny you mentioned Wonderboy. That was one of the names I was thinking of because I think we're at the point now with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and taking nothing away from Gilbert Burns. I think we're at that point now with him where we're starting to see the slow decline of Wonderboy. Wonderboy's still good. I think he still beats most welterweights in that division, but I think we're at that point now where it's like you've had how many opportunities to get that title shot again? It hasn't happened. Like Gilbert dominated that fight. Like it wasn't close. I think we're at the point now where I don't think it's the worst idea in the world to do like a Hamzat and Wonderboy because I think depending on how he looks, of course, in this next fight, and not counting out Li Jingliang, but I think that's the type of fight that makes sense. Or maybe do the winner of like a Michael Chiesa and Sean Brady or something like that. I don't know. It depends on how they want to go. But I think they're going to try and fast track Hamzat because of just his fan base. Like it's still crazy. This guy hasn't fought in since last year. He got COVID. The numbers on his content are still crazy. He's got a huge fan base. So. We'll see.
Yeah, and, our most watched breakdown is Hamzat Chimaev versus Li Jingliang.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a very small chance I might get an interview with him because I was not told a no. I was told that he's doing limited media, and then I got an email after that saying from his manager that he's a fan of my work. So there's a small chance. We'll see if we can get one, but probably not. But what are you going to do? Gaethje's been bad-mouthing the champ lately in almost every interview he's been in. I think Oliveira could use the same takedown from the Chandler fight and sub him. You know what? A lot of these guys, you got to remember, are just trying to put their names out there and keep relevant. Gaethje's fight's coming up here. I don't think it's, if he wants to badmouth the champ, what's Oliveira going to say back to him? He, doesn't even speak English. So I think, Gaethje's just trying to be relevant, right? And, maybe he does feel that way. But Oliveira, you got to give him his due. This is a guy that, a lot of people writing off, saying this guy would never, pan out, and now here he is as a champion, and he's done so impressively. So props to Oliveira.
Yeah, and most of the time, the interviewer is asking questions about a particular person, and of course, you're gonna try to build off that, right? So the responses will bad mouthing is bad mouthing. It's part of the game.
Beneil should fight Rafael. I don't think they'll ever fight each other. They used to be training partners at Kings. So
I think they still train together.
Yeah, I don't know where Rafael Dos Anjos is training. It's not at Kings, but it's like he's still in California. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'd love to know, but can't get an interview with him. Actually, well, not even Rafael. It's just Rafael is he doesn't have a manager, so I don't know how to get a hold of him. Tried, but no luck. I would say Hooker absorbed a lot of damage against Edson, Felder, Poirier, and Chandler. He has, but if you look who's fought longer, it's RDA, and you got to go all the way back to Jeremy Stevens knocking him out. Like that's sort of what I'm referring to. I'm not saying Hooker hasn't taken damage. That Barbosa fight was pretty dominant loss. But I'm just saying in general, I think if you look at them overall and the fact that Hooker's a bit younger, I think RDA has taken more damage. With Paul Felder possibly considering a comeback. Let me stop you right there. Where's Felder saying this? I haven't seen any news about that. How do you think him against Gregor looks? I think Gregor would still win. But I don't think Felder's coming back. What incentive is there? You're fighting in a division that's even deeper than it was when you retired the last time. So there we go. Who do you think wins the 2 Bellator tournament fights? I like Nemkov, and I think, Nemkov, and I actually like Ryan Bader over Corey Anderson.
Yeah, me too. I think Ryan Bader does really well. I was talking to his sparring partner the other day, and he's fighting on the same card, same night, and he told me that Ryan Bader does really well against other wrestlers. And I was thinking he actually does pretty well against other wrestlers. So Corey Anderson, man, they're gonna end up starting. If they're gonna trade on the feet, I'd give the advantage to Ryan Bader. I think Ryan Bader could knock him out.
We got a bit of time. We're actually darting out of here a little bit early here today, but I did want to get in our and I know we got some picks coming up here, but we're going to quickly do our underdog picks. There's an underdog that I like on this weekend's card that I'm going to get to right now. Let's see if we got this lined up here. So the underdog I like this week, as we have the odds up here, and again, download the Fantasy Fanatics MMA app. Who was it? I know who it is. I think. Let me just see. Yeah, I'm still going with that same person. Brandon Davis back in the UFC. I think he gets the upset here. Batgirl is very good. Batgirl, solid guy, obviously good resume overall, but Brandon Davis is a guy that is extremely tough to take out and to finish. I've liked some of the improvements he's made on the regional scene since leaving the UFC the first time. And I think we also got to remember, and I know it was a short notice fight, but he does have a win over Randy Costa as well. Davis is a game opponent. And I think if, Batgirl can't get the early finish, I think Davis could potentially steal the decision here. So that's going to be my underdog pick of the week is Brandon Davis. I think he comes back with a vengeance and gets it done by decision over his opponent. Who do you like as far as your underdog pick this week?
I like two underdogs.
Ooh,
and
nice.
The first one is Andrew Sanchez against Bruno Silva. I know Bruno Silva is a world beater. I feel
That was
like
one I was looking at too, actually.
Andrew Sanchez, I think he's going to be able to go in there and grapple him and neutralize that striking and win a decision. And then the other underdog I think I'm going to pick is Norma Dumont against Aspen Ladd. I feel like Aspen Ladd's coming back. I don't know, man. There's a lot of question marks there with what happened.
Long layoff and new weight class. And yeah, that's something I told people on my preview show on Monday. Stay the hell away from this fight. And if you are going to bet it, Dumont's the value there, because who knows how Ladd's going to look. Now, I did talk to Jim West yesterday. You guys can find that interview on the Middle Easy YouTube channel. Jim sort of gave some insight into Aspen's camp and talked about the cut and all that stuff. I know obviously he's her coach and he's got to say what he's got to say, but he's very confident that Aspen's fine. Like it was just she was on her period. She had trouble making weight. The weight wouldn't come off, and she'll be good to go for this fight. And she might even look better with the fact she's at 45 and not at 35, not even having to cut weight. It's always been an issue for her in the past. I'm going to lump these two questions together because we have another sensitive MMA fan, and I just want to point it out because we'll lump them together here. Hulk Hogan. I don't mind entertaining these guys. I find it weird when JHK predicted that Volkan wins over Ankalaev. JHK, my man. Ankalaev is the same guy who handily beat Nemkov. Ankalaev out-wrestled Nemkov. And then this other question. Guys, when you made the Hamzat prediction against Li Jingliang, you should consider that Hamzat's best wins didn't come against Mershart. Hamzat's best win was Ekrem, whatever. I don't even know his name in Brave CF. Okay, two things. First off, I don't even think we talked about Volkan and Ankalaev on here. Maybe you picked them or whatever, but that's a close fight. And two, we picked Hamzat. So why are you nitpicking here? This stuff drives me nuts when people are like, well, you picked the fighter, but you didn't say that. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like maybe this guy is better, but we still picked your guy. So stop complaining about it. Okay.
Come on, Hogan.
Yeah. Come on. The real Hulk Hogan wouldn't.
We love Hulk Hogan, but come on, man. I don't even remember talking about Volkan and Ankalaev. Did they even fight? I know
they haven't. They're fighting on they're fighting on the upcoming card here. Yeah, we didn't do it on here. I thought maybe you did it on your own show, but I don't know. Who knows?
Maybe I did say it somewhere, and I'm talking out my ass, and Hulk Hogan, you caught me, maybe you did. I don't know, but hey, sometimes I say stuff and I don't remember it at all. But if I did say that, okay, you're right. Nemkov, 4-time combat sambo champion, a beast.
Okay, we're going to answer just 3 more questions here. Again, we're darting off a little bit early here today. Prediction for Cyborg's next fight. She's fighting Sinead Kavanagh, has way more experience. Cyborg's fight to lose. That's how I look at it. It's not like she's fighting.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, unless she fights Kayla Harrison, I don't think there's going to be much competition for Cyborg, including Kat Zingano. I mean, I just think Cyborg is going to continue to win. She'll probably retire with Bellator undefeated, unless someone, like even Leah McCourt, she won a decision, but she didn't blow anyone's socks off in that performance. Like she beat a girl who's had, 5 fights, I think. So that's what we're going to do.
The thing with Cyborg is that, like, the next opponent, Kavanaugh, I don't see where she wins this fight. Like, seriously, on the ground, on the feet, I don't see, but the thing about Cyborg is that she has a lot of girls that she could still fight, right? If they get a couple wins, you still got Kat Zingano in there. And like you said, Leah McCourt, she could fire all these girls. And I think Cyborg's going to do what Shevchenko is going to do. Is just fight until, they retire. They're just going to keep the belt forever.
How excited are you for Saturday's card? Are you watching live? This is definitely a PVR card for me. We got the back-to-back pay-per-views coming up. We'll be doing watch-alongs for that. I might catch the main event, just depends. But a lot of these cards, it's so much easier to PVR it, skip all the commercials, skip all the filler, and then you can watch a card in 2 hours instead of 4. It's way easier. I don't know how people do it. I know I used to do it too. I used to live tweet every card. I got 2 kids. I got a lot going on. I got to take out the garbage. There's all types of stuff I got going on outside the cage. So it's or outside of covering the sport. So, and then I do all these interviews too. So it's you need a little bit of a break there. So I prefer PVRing cards like this. Which do you believe is more likely, Furio Bueno Silva not to go to the distance, or Dumont versus Ladd not to go the distance over 5 rounds? I would say I think Furio is going to finish her opponent. I think she's going to get another knockout. So I would lead more towards that as opposed to Dumont Ladd, because Ladd's only been finished 1 time by GDR. I don't know if Norma's going to be the one to finish her. And, conversely, Ladd, you look at her finishes, they're late. Look at the Yana fight. It was a 3rd round finish, right? So I don't know if that'll happen here. So we'll have to see what happens there as well. Let's see. We'll get one more question. How do you feel about Aspen Ladd fighting this weekend? I've had a number of questions about this. I think it is a bit too soon, but if the from what Jim told me, and this is something to his credit that I do kind of believe, they've been talking to the PI, so they're in the loop with all this stuff. I don't think the PI would let a fighter go out there and risk, especially someone like Aspen Ladd. It's not like we're talking about Connor here. Like they've obviously checked her out. She's good to go. Personally, I think she should take some more time off, but if the PI is saying she's good to go, let it be, as they say. So there we go. All right, everyone, got it started here a little bit early. We'll try and start the show a little bit earlier next time as well, just because it's kind of tough with me taking my kid to school and all that. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. Download the Fantasy Fanatics MMA app. We have our picks on there every week, so you guys can go on there and make your own picks, talk some smack if we're right or we're wrong. JHK, you got anything coming up this week that we can check out? You did an interview with Luke. What else you got going on this week?
Yeah, interview with Luke, Dawkins, and a bunch of prospects coming up. And yeah, I got an interview with the one championship lightweight champion, newly crowned. Talks about the Christian Lee fight, the controversy, and all of that good stuff. Just follow me on social media, JHK MMA, and subscribe to this channel, man. We're trying to grow this thing.
Yeah, we're doing our best. Again, the time is staying like this: Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, 8 a.m. Pacific time. We'll be here every Tuesday morning, just easier. Remember, we were going against Contender Series. That other time slot was just too tough, so we're sticking here. I did an interview yesterday with Jim West. Like I mentioned, you can check that out on my YouTube channel under the UFC interviews playlist. Talked to Miranda Granger, who hasn't fought this entire year because she just gave birth. So update from her. Got a bunch of interviews coming out this week, including one with a UFC champion. Hopefully it all pans out, but we'll see how that all goes. And I just want to thank everyone so much for watching here. Do we have the outro video? We do. So thanks so much for watching. We'll see you guys soon, and enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you in a week today.